There are a lot of recipes scattered amongst the Exiled Lands, some of them well worth making more than others. On today's guide, I'll be sharing with you my essential always touch recipes for every playthrough that I do. I will also be going into a couple of little hidden recipes that you might not know about but are pretty handy to have, or at least know that you can do. G'day, I'm ILLIBET. If you're new here, I play a lot of survival games. Conan Exiles is definitely one of them. And if you're a returning viewer, hey, welcome back. Hopefully this guide's got some stuff in it for you. If you've watched a couple of my guides and you find them enjoyable and you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, consider giving it a little smash for me. It would mean a bunch as I'm almost at my AK subscribers. But enough with that, let's get on with the guide. One of the places I always come pretty much straight away is Shaleback Hollow. It has the Cave of Kurak right at the back, and it's where we can learn sorcery. It is a bit corrupty and there are some turtles, but you can generally just run straight past them. On your first time touching, you will learn sorcery, get a couple of sorcery bags, little beginner ones, and a staff, as well as a Tome of Kurak. If you already have a tome in your inventory, you cannot touch it, so simply drop them out and collect another one in case you want some spares. Also worth jumping down here and climbing over, or making an ice bridge if you happen to get the staff and the sack straight away, because you can touch some of these boxes and get some pretty good early game loot. I'm pretty sure you all have been doing this, but just in case you haven't, always touch the obelisks and attune your bracelet, so it'll come in very handy for our next little recipe down here in the Archivist around DE6. Come down here and talk to the ghosty Archivist and you'll be able to learn Cartographer, and if you have some fragments of power, learn that and get yourself Oils of Memory, which will come in very handy later. Once you have Cartographer, you'll be able to build your very own map room at home, which is a good source of fast travel and pretty essential. Sorcery also has its own fast travel options, another good reason to go learn that. If you have spare fragments of power, you want to come talk to here and get all of the fun recipes. I do believe they have like a set path now, but maybe not. I thought they were meant to, but I got Dead Leg as one of my first recipes last time, and I didn't that time. It was one of the last. But these are pretty fun for the most part. Some of them are kind of meh, but definitely worth at least getting once, because once you've eaten it, you know it forever. I also like to touch all of the extra religious learners, teachers. They give a little emote as well, and you'll be able to make their gods and their god weapons, and some of their armors are pretty decent for certain purposes. We have the Teacher of Yog at Shaman's Rise at F4, Mitra Religion Teacher at Muriel's Hope at 7E. We can also get a Tapestry of Zath from climbing this pillar. If you don't already have the Zath religion, you can learn it. If you do have it already, you can sacrifice it for some zeal. If for some reason the tapestry is not in that box, you can go down either this cave or my preferred little butthole cave, this one as it's much closer to the teacher, right near the Southern Aqueduct in 7F, and I do believe I said 7F for Muriel's Hope. It's actually 7E over there. All the way down near the middle, near the little boss spider, which we can also find a legendary key box here, and she's not too hard to kill, so kind of worthy coming down here anyway. Nice crystally cave. Zath is super important to me because of the Zath ritual knife, where you can kill spiders and get some Zathite bags, which come with all sorts of goodies in them. I highly recommend it. Around NO5, we'll find the Pagoda of Boundless Lust, where we can learn the Decor religion. It's also a good source of archpriests. Here's one right now, but they can also spawn over on these campfires, and there can be other fun Ooh, 2 archpriests. Look out. Could do all the Derketoing right now. Always worth a laugh listening to her story. She says some pretty suspicious stuff. You can also touch a book over here and learn an emote. At 7G, we have Mechamosis' Spire, touching the little head in a basket, learn Set emote, and the Acolyte of Set. We'll be back here a little bit later to visit the Kurak dungeon. If you simply cannot be bothered to go up to the spire, you can also come around Sepu and by the Set altar, you can find this box which will always have Eyes of Set in it. Alternatively, if you find archpriests and you don't want them, you can kill them and they'll often have their religious teacher fragment in there also. There's a couple of Set spawns around. And while we're here, I'll also show you Bear Hug, as it is super important. This little one here on the ground, we loves him. Not really a recipe, but a learnable emote. And the spot is 7B at the Temple Quarter. And our last little guy, who sometimes, to be honest, I don't touch, but if you happen to be doing a random little I can't harvest or farm any items, to be honest, I don't often touch Ymir, but if you happen to be doing a random little playthrough where you can't actually harvest anything, he's pretty handy, as you can turn his religious zeal into black ice. You can also find black ice scattered in treasure boxes about the land. He doesn't give a little emote, but coming over here also has a fun little box worth touching. Another good reason to learn all the religions is you then unlock the religious feasts, which brings us into cooking recipes. There are a lot of useless ones. We don't really need Barrel Feast particularly, so climbing the Tower of the Bats might be a bit pointless. But Lasting Feast, that's really nice to have. Having corrupting brews and rhino head soups and the salted exquisite meats and salted porks, all pretty dang vital, and especially if you play PvP. There are of course also some recipes that you get if you have a cook, which is really nice. They also give increased crafting speed, and if you for some reason don't have access to an alchemist or a water source and you have lots of ice, you can put ice in the campfire as well as blood, and some fun things happen. We'll fill some orbs, and we will also get some blood sausage, because you will be needing some water-filled flasks for some recipes, to make some water, to make some soup. And the blood sausage comes in handy for a few little recipes here and there, but saber cats also really enjoy eating it. And to be fair, it's not a bad little sating food for yourself, with 7 points of healing every 3 seconds. But if you're looking to feed your thralls and you're not using the recipe that I'll show you in a minute, we can make gruel with seeds and fiber. If you don't already have fuel burning, it'll often just choose the grass and start burning that, so make sure that's burning first. One of the first I always come and get because it gives a lot of buff foods and it's pretty dang vital if you are playing a PvP or just want to have a thrall following you. Over here, GH5 at the summoning place. It's pretty easy to run past all the Defaris or fight a lot of them as they're not too hardcore. We head on up this way to our left and we can find a little book on the ground. We'll get specialist cooking 6 and 1. On the other side, we can interact with this little post and learn a skull taker. Not super important, but kind of, because you want to hang the skulls of your enemies about your base to show your power. So there's that. At 9G, we're going to find Trapper's Cabin, which conveniently also holds a jailer and a jailer's key, so whilst learning lots of recipes, you'll be getting lots of thralls potentially. Cooking 5 is here. And I almost forgot to mention why we were even touching the ones at the Tefari camp. Cooking 1 gives us salted pork, flavoured gruel, corrupting brew, spiced soup, and the spiced pork, all pretty handy. Tefari soup's kind of meh. And cooking 6 gives us hearty feast, very nice. Pretty much the best thing to get out of there, to be fair. And cooking 5, hearty stew, very nice. Demon blood sausages, rhino head soup, lasting feast, and spice slivers. The big one here being lasting feast and hearty stew. Next we'll find Leon's Watch over at FG10, where we will get cooking recipe 9 and most importantly the mushrooms, which you can feed to your thralls instead of the gruel, as it lasts a really long time and is fairly dang cheap to acquire with the roasted mushrooms. You can also learn Cimmerian Feast, which I do believe gives extra armor now, but maybe it's vitality, they keep changing it. To be fair, maybe it's nothing, I should probably check that. At B11, we will find Mounds of the Dead. There are 2 recipes here, I like to get both, and there's also a pretty funny emote. We'll get cooking 4, which gives us some exquisite stew, savoury jerky, and salted exquisite meat, giving us a life boost and a agility boost. I believe trail jerky also does something, can't remember. We can head over to the next little one just here. Running inside will give a much better recipe, super important. Cooking recipe 3, giving us enhanced gruel, cleansing brew, and herbal tea. And spice tea if you so desire. This one is just for old time's sake, as I used to beeline for this straight away. We've got the aloe soup recipe. At DE9, on top of a little tower, cooking recipe 2, giving us aloe soup and berry juices, which to be fair are pretty decent. These are pretty much the only recipes that I do go out of my way to touch. If I pass by the others, I may touch them. I'm usually not creating the foods from those ones though, so yeah, there's not a whole lot of point in touching all of them unless you're a I've got to touch everything person. Now I'll talk about some of the armors that we can learn out in the wild. There's a few of them, and some of the dungeon armor recipes. I do like to learn the Relic Hunter here in Sephiroth, right on Rasma's house in B6, kind of behind South Lake. Touching that is not super important, but kind of handy, because if you're killing these dudes or looting all the boxes about, you end up with a decent amount of Relic Hunter armor, which you can then repair by hand if you know the recipe. Although you can repair most things by using a repair kit anyway. When crafted with a armorer, it's much better stats, but you get agility and carry capacity from the Relic Hunter. When you get the epic variety, it's a little bit better than the regular also. Same with the Hyena. It's one of the few medium armors that have follower and concussion damage that you can get real easy. We have a couple of mixes of stuff, some health in there also. The regular variety you can then fix when dropped by the various dudes around, like places like the Den. Sometimes the pirate area they'll drop it, but not as often as around over here, so it's a little weird that these guys have the recipe over here. At Scoundrel's Gateway at HI6, we'll find the Hyena recipe. Little inconspicuous thing here that you've probably ran past a million times. I know I did myself. And then if for some reason you've been having no luck getting the Skelos armor from the sorcerers when you kill them, you can also come to 13G and touch the little guy on the ground and get your Skelos cult armor here. While you're in the neighborhood, Well of Skelos, you can climb to the top of the tower and get a very, very nice recipe. Climb up here, then the stairs, come in here. On the other side, we'll find the recipe tablet for the Serpent-Man stuff. Serpent-Man weapons are really nice because they're super cheap to craft with only a little bit of alchemy base and iron and a fancy weapon handle, but they can be found in boxes. Another good thing about them is they don't have an added weapon stat like a lot of the other recipe weapons we'll be going into in a moment, so I can in fact apply poison to them. It's kind of nice. Now we have a couple of dungeons to delve into, some more dungeony than others for sure. The Dregs is definitely well worthwhile because we can get a glowing torch and some recipes for some glowing essence, which will be very vital later on. If you have not done it before, you need to bring a thrall up to this spot. In fact, you don't even need to do the whole dungeon. The recipe we want's right at the beginning, so I might as well show you quickly. You want to lure a guy over onto this platform. Alternatively, you can drag a knocked out guy over here and then kill them. And it will also work the same as a sacrifice. We don't need to do the whole dungeon. Upon entering it, we simply turn immediately right and touch this recipe to get Dredger, which will teach us the glowing stick, breathing potions, glowing essence, and the cooked abysmal flesh, a good source of ichor if you are killing the abysmal remnant. In NO56, we'll find the Celestial Plaza along with the Palace of the Witch Queen just behind it. I do have a separate video that explains this place in depth, but essentially you go in there, kill some statues, kill the Witch Queen, and then touch her throne, and you should have the recipe. It'll give us the recipe for the Lemurian Royal Armor, which is follower damage and concussive damage, so if you're going thralling in light gear, and the ability to make and repair my favorite medium strength armor. Well, it's one of my favorites just because you can get a whole bunch of it for free in the next place we're going to boop into quickly. And you also get the swords, which are quite cheap to make, and the pike, which has gone down here. Much better, of course, made with an armorer, but incredibly cheap to make. Just a little hop, skip, and a jump away. At 6-0, we're going to find Dagon's Embrace. We're going to touch the ore because otherwise people get sapped. We have not touched the ore, and you can skin stuff with it, which is fun. Touch the butt and boop into this little area. We again don't need to do this whole dungeon because we're really just looking for the Lemurian Axe. Very similar stats to our old Yog's Touch, but it's craftable with only a little bit of star metal and stuff. And you can repair it, which is lovely. It is the first recipe in here, so we don't even need any of the breathing potions, but now we have the Dredger done, we also have breathing potions. You'll usually have to fight this dude. Sometimes you can be sneaky and get the recipe and actually touch it. Other times it's a little bit buggy. I usually try to just run in and touch it. If you die, you'll spawn right at the beginning here anyway, so it's pretty easy to come get your stuff again. But for some reason, you can get hit by sandstorms in here, so keep that in mind if you're planning on spending a bunch of time. Quick sidetrack back into open world armor recipes. Dang near almost forgot, and how could I do any pegging if I don't have a leg? Well, over here at Booty Bay, we can touch the Buccaneer recipe. Oop, that one. I actually got to touch the book and not the statue. We also get Black Hussar Garb here, but it will enable us to make peg legs on demand or repair the ones dropped by the pirates. Super fancy. Another super easy to touch, well, debatably super easy to touch recipes over at the Sinkhole, where we can learn Dragon Bone. We are going to get a light, a medium, and a heavy set of armor, which all have the same stats no matter which piece it is, unlike the Silent Legion, which between the heavy and the medium and light mix everything up about everywhere. And we also get some pretty neat weapons, which are nice and cheap to craft, requiring dragon bone and a fancy weapon handle. And they also do extra sunder, so pretty nice cheap daggers to whack on a bunch of defensive thralls about the base. Couple of ways you can get to the recipe. You can have an elevator that goes straight down, which is quite nice, straight in at 6H right into the sinkhole, or we can run it through the arena entrance over here. I do prefer to pop a little elevator down, but if it's a multiplayer server, there's probably already one. This recipe is located right here, and then it's a nice easy way to get back out again. Usually the dragon won't aggro, but sometimes he might. This one might be one of the easiest dungeons to come to. Good source of demon blood. The polearm definitely got nerfed into oblivion, you might think, but it's still kind of handy. Whereas the Lemurian pike we just learned has 46 health damage, not with a blacksmith, and we can get something like a bloodletter pike, which is just star metal, which is 41. They both have reach, but our polearm, our trusty old polearm, 36 health, might not seem that great, but sweeping's fun. The normal attack on heavy, very pokey mate. If we equip a polearm, we are very swoopy poly swoop mate, which is fun. And we can skin better pikes with this pike and get the same animation, much like how my Yog's Touch is skinned with the Lying Bastard to make it look like a sword. Essentially right behind the Mounds of the Dead and 11A, the Barrow King Cave. You will need only one piece of demon blood to enter, otherwise you cannot. It does also tell you down here, a little hint, because it didn't actually used to tell us when we clicked on the door. Now it does. Actually, maybe I just always have demon blood in my inventory. I don't know. But 10 out of 10 can recommend coming and touching the Barrow King. It can be pretty dark in here, so having a torch is quite fun. You don't even need to kill him, although I do highly advise it because he's super dang easy. He doesn't even hit very hard. Boop, boop, boop. It used to be a lot easier. I don't know why he's taking fuck all damage, probably because I have no stats in anything. And I'm level 10. Come over here and touch the very easy to miss tablet. Our next stop is a little bit of a harder dungeon at Khalil's Stronghold, or the Warmaker's Sanctuary, located in 8B, right behind the obelisk to the Brimstone Lake. We do have a separate full in-depth guide on this, but here we can learn the Godbreaker armor. Ooh, so fancy. This is literally just spawned in, so it's not too fancy, but we get chilled and regular, and we can also learn the champion armor in here. You do not need to fight the arena champion, although she's a little bit easier these days. You just run straight behind her and touch the recipe. And I do have a full in-depth guide, like I said, if you want to know exactly where they are, but I always come here and do this dungeon. It's a good little source of other resources, and also where you get the Yog's Touch and a few other fun weapons from fighting the beginning God King, Priest King guys. Much like the King Beneath that we just went and looked at, they also drop a lot of demon blood. If you want the option to wear this very nice top and an option of pants that look pretty similar, you want to come to the Black Keep near the ruins of Zullen in 12F. I do have a separate guide that goes into it in full detail, shows a bunch of the boxes that you can touch. There are a lot of really good ones in here and some pretty meh ones. Touch the door, avoid the first few little traps, and I'm essentially just going to fly straight to the recipe, which is actually the quick way down. Oh, I ran slightly too far. This way, go up. You used to have to touch all of the recipe tablets, but now you do only have to touch one and you get all of the Silent Legion stuff. If for some reason you wish to make Tilia's Sorrow or Lament, you have to kill this guy to get his heart. And if you wish to remove your bracelet, he's also pretty vital. And then you can just jump out, back down here. You'll end up landing in the water, if you're careful, catch a fancy fish box or two, and make your way back out. Nice and quick. You cannot climb in a dungeon, so you won't be able to climb up that way. You will have to go check out my other guide if you wish to find your way through here or adventure by yourself. This Redeemed Legion is crafted with a shield right, and you can only craft Redeemed Legion if you do have an armor, and it is very good armor and strength weapon damage. We also have some nice other pieces too, and the light, which is what I am wearing as the skin for the top currently. If you're into agility weapons, I highly recommend grabbing yourself some blood crystal and heading on over to the Kurak dungeon, right by where we learned Set Religion and Mechamosis' Spire at 7G. It is also a good source of extra blood crystal in here, so bring something to hack up the golems with. But you only need 30 blood crystal to initially run the dungeon. Blood crystal golems and rock noses are weak against star metal. Either bring a star metal weapon or a bow, or alternatively bring any bow and some star metal arrows and you can get them down real quick. You definitely want to do the zombie stage nice and fast and destroy the obelisks, otherwise you'll have to fight a blood moon beast and that's no good for anyone. It's also a very good source of dragon horn in here, as the dragon in here is much like the Red Mother and drops a lot of dragon horn compared to other boss dragons which drop 1, depending on how much they change the settings, which they do sometimes. So we are going to learn the Kurak Armor. We mostly want the stamina pants, they're pretty cool, but pretty much everything else is a nice little offering, and we get that concussion and follower damage from the hood, which is one of the few light armors that does have that is a decent armor value. In fact, I think it's one of the highest armor values for light armor that has those stats. These are just spawned in, but yeah, highly recommend these little fellas. Venturing back into the volcano to the Well of Skelos in 14 GF. We will find ourselves the Obsidian Recipe, mostly used for the tools as they're a good alternative to black blood with only a little bit, well, a butt ton less durability, but fairly similar crafting stats. And you don't have to go kill a Skexy over and over for a random chance to get the tool you want. So I do always love to come get this recipe, and killing dudes around the volcano usually yields you some busted weapons which you can dismantle for the composite obsidian. Jump into the well, break your ankles a little bit, and then upon entering the actual Well of Skelos itself, you can go down to the crafting forge and craft yourself some stuff. Oh, I need to be in creative mode. As all these guys now attack you, they didn't used to unless provoked. They're a bit meaner now for sure. You can go down here, kill a couple of guys and craft the composite obsidian in the forge itself. But I usually just dismantle the busted weapons from killing other dudes in the thing or finding some composite obsidian in the boxes. You want to jump off down here, grab on, and just essentially keep making your way down here. We want to make our way up to this place, which you can either go this way. My preferred way is this way. It is a little bit closer. Lots of obsidian for gold and ash. If you use only a sickle on them, I believe we just get ash. Or crystal? Maybe it's just crystal now. It used to give us some ash. Anyway, giving out false information. We also do not have to beat this boss, we can simply touch the recipe and leave. Located just here. I also advise touching these boxes because they have some pretty decent loot. A couple of skeleton key boxes. Some of the most notable loot here being that 7 dragon powder. And all the guys in here are really easy. You can avoid most of the guys if you're running the normal way from the dungeon. But yeah, might as well do it that way. Take the shortcut and simply leave again up this path. This jump can be a little bit scary, but you aren't going to die. Don't worry. Make sure you're fully healed before doing that, because I would have died. Brings you to here. Create your obsidian composite. Leave again through the portal. Really, really easy. I do advise taking some iced teas or ice or something to keep nice and cool in there, and plenty of heals. Our next spot is to learn acid arrows. We have a whole variety of Skexy caves and some fun weapons we can learn in a bunch of them, but we're specifically looking for one that is not this one. We can get our black blood weapons from killing one just up here in this cave. But if you want acid arrows, which are poison arrows that also deteriorate armor value, head on down to this particular cave. We're at 910H. Cannot remember the exact name of this cave, whether it's going to tell us or not. We'll find out. Lockstone Cave, there we are. Head on right into the middle. Bit dark in here, so yeah, bring a torch. We want to kill this boss guy. He will offer us Specialist Ammunition 4, teaching us those acid arrows. If you are on a PvP server and everyone has the Godbreaker gas masks on their thralls, you can eventually wear away their armor. Nice and handy. Do 10 out of 10 recommend this also. I have a free little skeleton key. And that's a list of recipes I touch without fail on every single playthrough I do. There are a couple here and there that I I might gather if I can be bothered, or I'm doing a slightly different build. I might go get the Pride of a Seer or something like that. And the Frost Temple used to be great, but I don't really bother with it anymore since they nerfed the short sword. Let me know in the comments if you enjoy these recipes, or you have some other essential recipes that maybe I didn't mention that you love to get every time. I always love hearing your guys' opinion. If you did find this enjoyable, smash that like button and hit that subscribe if you're not already. Consider sticking around for another helpful guide on Conan Exiles, or check out one of my other games that I play. And until next time, I hope you have an excellent day, evening, night, morning, whatever it may be, wherever you may be.